Welcome back. You're watching Storyboard. It was in Cannes lands that we caught up with the very tech-savvy Global Chief Creative Officer of SapientNitro, Donald Chestnut, and asked him if he and David Ogilvy were to have a meal together, what would they talk about? And he had a very interesting answer to this. He also spoke about the increasing role of technology in his life and also his industry. Let's hear the full conversation. I have the global CC of SapientNitro, Donald Chestnut, with me right here.
Hi.
Donald, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Welcome as well.
So, I wanted this conversation to be more fun. So, my first question to you, Donald, is that if you were to go out on a dinner with David Ogilvy,
Okay.
what would that conversation be like?
Oh, what a fantastic topic. For one, I think his ideas of 360-degree branding, I think, are fully relevant today. Really thinking about how do consumers interact with brands, really from all different touch points. He started that thinking, and that was quite a while ago, and it's all the more relevant in a digitally empowered world when we're interacting with brands on Facebook and in communications and in transactions. So that's one thing I would say. The other thing I would push him on is how does he think about this word advertising today? Cannes has undergone such an amazing transformation over the last few years. It began as true just plain advertising, but the notion of what that word is today has evolved so greatly, so differently from what it used to be. In fact, I almost find the term not useful, and yet it's still necessary. So what is advertising versus what Cannes is, and what I'd say to David Ogilvy around what we're in the business of is building brands and building better relationships with consumers and brands. So, in short, talking about what I still see as relevant today from his thinking and where I feel that we have evolved so greatly into something else, in products, transactions, pull versus push, etc.
About advertising, I'll get back to you later. But first, do you have things in common with David Ogilvy?
Yeah, I'd start with the point that I was kind of starting with around, he talked around kind of brands and 360-degree branding. And I think he felt that was more from kind of how do you surround a consumer. And I feel very much that you need to take a 360-degree view. We have worlds now. And, I look on almost how we build brands is like how we build worlds. So that is very much, I think, absolutely in common
that's
around.
A great thought.
But I do think he thought more early around, much more the difference was it was more about surround and push versus just understanding that our engagement with brands is very different. In some cases, it's almost invisible in a transaction. In other cases, it's very visible in an emotional kind of passive way. But really understanding that 360-degree nature is very relevant still.
So your designation currently is CCO, Chief Creative Officer. If I were to ask you that you were given a choice to change your designation, what would that be and why?
I probably have a few, but within SapientNitro, I'd say architect and systems architect. Because I think I see so many parallels, first of all, between creativity and just plain architecture, but also within our own industry and within our own company, the technologists themselves, they are the people that are helping to think through how brands will perform and what are new engaging ways to bring about innovation. So, I salute all of our people at SapientNitro, but our technologists are what give us the fuel to really deliver.
Do you think you'd rather be at like a technology conference like a CES rather than being at Cannes?
Oh, I love that question. So would I really rather be at something like CES and Cannes? Yeah.
If I were to give you a choice to choose between any of the technology conferences and Cannes, what would that be?
So I love both. I love creativity. So, and I've gone to CES for many years. I love what it brings, which is new, innovations. But for me, technology, and it's not to undermine technology, technology brings us capability, but it also needs creativity. And how do you partner capability? And that's where I think oftentimes innovation gets confused with pure technology and pure capability. Even the innovation categories here at Cannes is a challenge.
So, and if I were to ask you whether it's going to be an SXSW or Cannes, then what would you choose?
I would still say Cannes. And I've been to South by Southwest. South by Southwest has become so big and is about so many different things, and yes, a little bit of disruption, but the conversations that I find happening here at Cannes, even this one, is far more meaningful than what I've seen from South by Southwest over the last few years.
Okay, so final question to you. What does a 2016 and 2017 look like for your company?
for our company is continuing to advance our capabilities. I will say that I think we're at a new turning point, and that's focus. Really looking at kind of, because the world is continuing to change, consumers are changing, our clients are changing, and continuing upping their game as it relates to digital and all things digital. For us now, it's continuing to advance in key areas and focusing. So where do we see the future? Where do we see the future of advertising? In my view, I see advertising as being content and bringing a brand to life, like the British Airways, example that we gave. In other cases, it's digitally enabled products and product innovation. In other cases, it's service design. And in many cases, it's what I call systemic design. But really choosing a few areas that are part of what we do today and really doubling down and advancing on them.
A lot of people, who have been here to Cannes for many years now, almost 40, 50 years, are critical about the way in which technology is present over here. So what do you think of that?
I'd say it's easy to be...
It is overpowering presence of technology,
overpowering.
which they are critical of. So
even
how
the
do you
view,
look at that?
I was talking with a colleague who's been coming for many more years than I have, and he talked about how the logos used to be all the biggest agencies, and now the logos all outside
Snapchat.
and on the beach are Snapchat. And this is
right
a perfect
here.
indicator. That's the way the world has evolved. These are our bigger, biggest media partners. These are the brands that consumers are interacting with the most, and this is the vehicle for actually other brands to actually have a close relationship. So to love it or hate it, it's the way the world has evolved. And in my attitude is let's embrace it, because that's what consumers are doing, and that's the beauty of evolution.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you
for being on the show.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
It is time for us to take a short break. When we return, we get to see the new campaigns for Protein X and Domino's on this week's notice board.